Vanity Fair is not the first, and they certainly won't be the last magazine to humble Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Here's a list at some of the most savage digs at the Duke and Duchess of Sussex from American media. All right, I've seen some of your feedback when Maureen Callahan and I spoke last week about how Harry and Meghan's Hollywood dream is basically dead. Plenty of you disagreed with us. I saw some people saying Meghan is a great producer. The ultimate test will be on March 4th when With Love Meghan premieres on Netflix after it was postponed about 2 weeks ago. And yeah, I am pretty confident in my statement that, you can only go through so many rebrands. And when you have been branded by the media and by sources, former employees, as not very nice, it's incredibly hard to work your way out of that brand, work your way away from that reputation. And it's especially going to be hard for Meghan, who just refuses to acknowledge it. It was Newsweek magazine not too long ago that said maybe she should acknowledge other people's feelings. It's always about her truth, but perhaps it would humanize her or make her a little more digestible if she would just acknowledge that certain people feel wronged by her or her way of communicating or management. And the fact that she refuses to do that is why people have a hard time accepting her in this role that she's trying to convince us to, begging us to buy of her twirling around in stilettos in a kitchen and, $50,000 worth of jewelry on one arm. People, if that was the woman we were initially introduced to, before she sat on Oprah Winfrey and vengefully accused someone of racism, I think it would have been easier to buy. But we have seen years of her complaining about her circumstances. And we've heard from behind the scenes that she's not a kind person. And it's not just Tom Bauer, it's not just Valentine Lowe. Now you're hearing it from the Hollywood Reporter. Now you're hearing it from Vanity Fair. Tom Quinn has reported on it. None of these people have been sued, by the way, from these two incredibly litigious individuals. And they threatened to sue Valentine Lowe. They threatened to sue him and they didn't. So Newsweek did compile a list of some of the negative press that Harry and Meghan have received since moving to the United States. And we're going to take a look at some of the highlights here. The title of this piece is US Magazines That Burst Meghan Markle and Prince Harry's Bubble. What a cute little title. What a cute burst bubble. All right, so now this is from Jack Royston, who I know a lot of you have said in the past. He is a Sussex supporter, but I think we can confidently say that there has been a shift over the last 12 to 24 months, perhaps. Maybe it's not been that long, but Jack's tone has definitely changed towards the Sussexes. You have seen him try to hold them accountable, and you have seen him call them out when he feels like they're not being honest with the public. And he says Meghan Markle and Prince Harry's US empire has been under mounting pressure in recent years after a series of high-profile articles in American magazines. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex have long hated the British media and framed their declining popularity in the UK as a product of tabloids poisoning the well of public opinion. Ain't that the truth? However, more recently, US magazines have been the outlets throwing the Sussexes into crisis mode starting in 2022. Well, it's nice that they had a nice little 2-year vacation. Between 2020 and 2022, I also like to refer to this time as plague time. It was in the middle of the plague, where they probably felt a little bit unbothered. But yes, glowing coverage America was absolutely thrilled. Before we knew what their version of events were, before they sat down with Oprah, it was kind of exciting to imagine Prince Harry and Meghan Markle living here. And I think best case scenario to Americans was that Meghan was homesick and Prince Harry was going to do everything he could to make her happy. And that was kind of romantic at the time. And they had to ruin it. They had to ruin the romance. They had to ruin the mystery by sitting down with Oprah Winfrey and unleashing. Um, and that's it should be one of their biggest regrets professionally. I hope it is, but I doubt it is because I don't think these two know. What does my mom say? They're butt from a hole in the ground? I don't think they do. Okay. But yeah, and there are still outlets, and you know this to be true, that continue to give them positive press. There are the magazines, we list them every week. Sources tell people there are the magazines that are going to continuously work with them because they love the access they have to these people and they don't want to jeopardize it. And then there are people like Entertainment Tonight and Access Hollywood that there is a carrot dangled in front of them, knowing that Harry and Meghan dabble in the entertainment world. So could Entertainment Tonight get an interview with Prince Harry? Yeah. I mean, if he would have been at those Netflix upfronts that the comedian were tearing into them at, yeah. I mean, with Harry and Meghan working so much in Hollywood, they probably might do a sit down with Access Hollywood. At least that's what Access Hollywood and Entertainment Tonight are hoping for. So you see a lot of positive stories on their website and on their socials. But if you read the comments on their socials, or if you, there's that website I've talked about a couple of times on here where you can just Google this, Google how to see YouTube dislikes. There's a website pops up. You can drop the URL in, and then it shows you how many people have viewed the video, how many likes the video has, how many dislikes the video has. And when you go look at an Entertainment Tonight story that's pro the Sussexes, the dislike count is far greater than the like count every single time. Why do they continue to talk about them in a positive way? Because they're hopeful that inevitably they'll have access to them. And that is what they want. They would love to talk to a royal, even if it's not a working royal. Their ultimate objective is access because they feel like that would elevate them, that would elevate their show, take their show to the next level. Because how often, unless it's Fergie, do you see members of the royal family sit down with kind of those frivolous shows? So Newsweek goes into some of the outlets that have been less than stellar towards the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, starting with The Cut. Don't forget, says The Cut, Meghan and Montecito. From what I understand, Meghan Markle specifically asked for this journalist. This was important to Meghan. It was one of her negotiation demands to give them this exclusive access to her. This exclusive access. She wanted this particular journalist. And boy, did it backfire. It just reminds you of Tina Brown's classic. She is absolutely, what word did she use? At getting it wrong. She's perfect at getting it wrong. I know that is not the exact quote, but it's something similar. So Jack says Meghan and Harry were still highly popular in America in 2022. But this also, I just want to quickly say this came out just a few months before the Queen died. So this did start the decline, right? Because once the Queen died, there was a lot of resentment because people started to realize that the last few years of her life were miserable because Harry and Meghan were constantly throwing grenades in the royal family's direction. And likely knowing that she had a limited time on this earth, she just lost her husband. She was fixated on ensuring the future of the monarchy. And with that being her obsession, she has two people perpetually trying to tear it down. And I do think that a lot of people recognized that, and there was some resentment there. So it says they were still popular in 2022, but the first sign the bubble might burst, came that August when New York Magazine's The Cut dispatched Allison P. Davis to Montecito to interview the Duchess. Was it odd to you at all that she chose New York Magazine's The Cut to be her debut magazine? Because there are also stories that Variety had to pause their cover, had to release their cover with Meghan on it after New York Magazine's The Cut, because The Cut had some sort of deal, and that, hold on, Variety, you have to hold off because The Cut gets this first. I would have started on the West Coast. They live in the West Coast. They're trying to impress the West Coast. They just, at the time, had just signed deals with Spotify and Netflix. They needed love from the West Coast. It was odd to me that they chose New York Magazine, but seeing how much they kind of obsess over this global influence brand, I do understand why they went to New York Magazine, because they want to look worldwide. They want to look international. They want to look national. They want to look bigger than they've become, quite frankly. I think that they've cheapened their brand immensely over the last few years. But I imagine that she went to New York Magazine because they were trying to look like this global brand, that they're always using the word global in their communication. I know you remember some of these. They did not even include the funniest quotes from this article, okay? In the Newsweek article, Nelson Mandela, palm trees holding hands, those aren't even included in this article. He says, Jack says the result was a far cry from the brash hit pieces in UK newspapers like The Sun and the Daily Mail, but there was a strong sense Davis had already chosen not to drink the Kool-Aid. Now she goes into the tiny bachelor producer in her brain. That is one of the quotes that Jack includes in this as an example of the Cuts not buying it. The guttural noises, remember that she's just moaning, is another one of the quotes that Jack includes. At this stage post-royal, there's no need for her to hold back. She's flinging open the proverbial doors to her life. As any millennial woman whose feminism was forged in the girl boss era would understand, she has taken a hardship and turned it into content. Content. I think she's making fun of her there, but I also would stress it's not good content. It's almost like messy monetization, because everything they do, it seems like they do in a hurry, or they do. I shouldn't say a hurry because it takes. Look, Limonada was announced a year ago, okay, but they do it in a rush, I should say. Like, I don't think that the Oprah Winfrey interview was well thought out, although we do know that they had talked about sitting down with Oprah before they got married. So the thought was there, but I don't think that they really thought out the consequences of the Oprah Winfrey interview. And I say that because they backpedaled. In the Netflix series, Meghan talks about how she was disappointed that the headline from the Oprah Winfrey interview was the royal racist, allegedly. She wanted it to be her mental health. And then when Tom Bradby asks Prince Harry about royal racism, Prince Harry completely denies it, says they never said that the media created that narrative. Now, we all know that is a complete and utter lie. There was racism discussed in the Oprah Winfrey interview, and you cannot put the toothpaste back in the tube after such an extreme and damaging claim. So that's part of the reason why I think that they just do and don't fully process what the repercussions might be. Messy monetization is how I would categorize whatever this content creation Meghan Markle is doing, will she improve by March 4th? We're going to have to wait and see. Still on the cut, another passage read, Meghan, silenced no more, looks around, making sure nobody, who would be, is listening in. Then the top secret drop. I'm getting back on Instagram. She says her eyes devilish. Gosh, she could not wait. She could not wait to get back on Instagram. She's been chomping at the bit. It says, this could have been a troll delivering a nothing with such gravitas, feels as if Meghan, who has been so trolled by the media, is serving it back just a little. But as I quickly realize, it is actually news. The mismatch between the interviewer and interviewee, this is Jack, is an interesting one because it speaks to a symptom of Meghan and Harry's wider malaise. At times, they have pushed themselves out of the spaces that normally fawn over the royals, but without necessarily working out how to appeal to other audiences. So they do go to The Cut, which has been incredibly critical of Prince William and Catherine, the Princess of Wales, in the past. And that was one of our points when we saw that Meghan gave them access to her. We were like, they've been writing this very vulgar content about Prince William. Why would she give access to them? And perhaps that is why Harry and Meghan choose some of these publications. Oh, well, they seem a little bit critical of the royal family, so maybe they'll be on our side. But I don't think they always are. I think that they need to do better due diligence when it comes to who they work with. I think Meghan works with people that she thinks not only will side with her, but also will give her a little bit of credibility. But anybody that truly would give Meghan Markle credibility by working with her is going to see right through her, and they're not going to pander. Back to our Newsweek article, the revelation she was returning to Instagram was indeed a big story for precisely the tabloids. Meghan and Harry have been trying to avoid, but she perhaps should have known. The Cut would expect something of greater substance from a woman who once said she reads The Economist. Okay, now I have spent 18 minutes talking about one section of this article. So for the rest of the article, I will try to blow through it. I'm so sorry. Just looked at the clock and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm only at the top of the article. So Variety, I will say backstory. The title of this Variety piece is It's Well Past Time for Harry and Meghan 2.0. This was written around the time that Harry and Meghan released their docuseries reality show on Netflix. And this is a negative review of that show that was featured in Variety. This is a huge deal that Variety, a trade publication, would give them a negative review of their show because not long before their show was released, shortly after Queen Elizabeth's death, Meghan was featured on the cover of Variety. What was it too? Like Women on the Rise, or I don't even remember what the concept was, but they had just given her this ooey gooey gushy cover where she got to dress up and have, she had videographers there capturing her in slow-mo, taking photos, and the wind blowing her skirts everywhere. She was living for it. So it was kind of a punch to the gut that Variety would be critical of them. And I'm just going to skim through this. Months later, Meghan and Harry released their first Netflix project, a biopic reality show, charting their messy exit from the palace. It soared to the top of the Netflix ranking globally. Okay, it's called Morbid Curiosity. But again, there was a canary in the mine shaft moment when Variety gave it a scathing interview. Now, this is Andrew Wallenstein, and he's talking about, given that they've beaten this horse to death, perhaps this one-trick pony is due for the glue factory. He is judging Harry and Meghan by the fact that they are just unloading everything between. Spare hadn't come out yet, I don't believe. We hadn't even known about the Todger cream yet. My God. But he's saying in this Netflix series, in the Oprah Winfrey interview. They've given it all away. Boy, was he wrong. Thanks to Spare. But he says, given that they've beaten this dead horse, perhaps this one trick pony is due for the glue factory. Of course, Harry and Meghan would have you believe they are all about so much more than their own story. The brand they believe they are building through their media company, Archwell Productions, is meant to be about all of the social causes and charities they support. Their game plan has always been come for the sob story, stay for the high-minded uplift. But that's a shaky strategy for keeping an audience around that probably doesn't care about anything either of them has to say that isn't royal gossip. Savage. And Newsweek is included in this Newsweek article. The title is "The More Prince Harry and Meghan Markle Say, the Less Americans Like Them." And they go into how they partnered with Redfield and Wilton to put together some polling. And really, they've seen that decline in Harry and Meghan's popularity since 2022, over the last few years. It says that it looks like they started to work with them in December of 2022, and they go into some of those numbers, and they believe that the decline was as significant as it was because of Spare and the Elizabeth Arden cream and talking to a trash can while you're, high as a kite. The Hollywood Reporter, why Hollywood keeps quitting on Harry and Meghan. Okay, so you and I have gone over this 1,000 times before, but what they have excluded, because why Hollywood keeps quitting on Harry and Meghan was at the end of last year. But what they've excluded is when the Hollywood Reporter named Harry and Meghan one of the biggest losers of 2023. So the Hollywood Reporter has been on it for a while, right? It says in September of 2024, one of Meghan's biggest scandals went stateside with a piece in the Hollywood Reporter suggesting the couple had a high churn rate because staff thought Meghan was a dictator in heels. One of the best lines ever. If you get that tattoo on your body, will you please send me a picture? Dictator in heels. I love it. Why'd they all leave? The article read. What explains the churn? Everyone's terrified of Meghan. We know this. I won't go into all of this with you, but my God, the Hollywood Reporter, what a frenzy that was after that article came out. Now, here they go into the Vanity Fair piece inside Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's big business ambitions 5 years after their royal exit. It says most recently, Vanity Fair thrashed out a series of similar claims from Sussex insiders who compared Meghan to a mean girl teenager. They talk about Spotify. Two sources say a colleague with ties to archetypes took a leave of absence after working on 3 episodes, then left Gimlet altogether. Several others described taking extended breaks from work to escape scrutiny. Oh gosh, we've all been there. When you're just like, I'm calling in sick. I need a mental health day. I'm going to say it's diarrhea, but I need a mental health day. They're exiting their job or undergoing long-term therapy after working with Meghan. The long-term therapy claim was pretty intense. I mean, that is, if the divorce rumor had not been included in the Vanity Fair piece, the therapy storyline would have been the storyline stealing all of the headlines. Let me know if you agree or disagree with me in the comments. One staff member described talking behind your back and gnawing at your sense of self. We've all had bosses like that. I think that's why it's so hard to read. And I think that's why it's so believable, because we've had those mean bosses. They tear at you, they tear you down, but they've given you enough love in the past that you work incredibly hard to get back in their good graces because you liked that feeling and you don't like the feeling of being on the outs. And it takes you a while before you go, it's not worth it. And I think that a lot of us really felt these articles in our core because we've worked with people like this before. The accounts make it incredibly difficult for Meghan and Harry and their team of supporters to suggest the bullying allegations from her time at Kensington Palace were a fiction, says Newsweek. What a line. Let's see, what else does it say here? My father, my brother, Kate, and all the rest of the family, they were really welcoming, Harry told Oprah, but it really changed after the Australia tour, after our South Pacific tour. And that is a major problem because of the nature of the narrative they put forward and why they left the monarchy. It was also the first time that the family got to see how incredible she is at the job. The narrative that the relationship between the monarchy and the Sussexes deteriorated because of jealousy is somewhat undermined. However, by the revelation, Meghan was accused of bullying, which serves as a possible alternative explanation for the rift that formed. I mean, yes, I have completely forgotten about Harry and Meghan claiming that it was all about jealousy because it is so ridiculous. That is such a ridiculous claim. There, I know that uh, there are other articles out there like these articles. The Wall Street Journal was critical of Harry and Meghan after the Spotify deal went south. Bloomberg poking fun at them. Bloomberg poking fun at them over some of the concepts that they revealed in their article, some of the ideas that Prince Harry had presented to Spotify about hanging out with the Pope and Trump. I mean, good luck. Um, so there have been other outlets. The Wrap was one of the first outlets too that I saw really from in the States talk about Harry and Meghan's turnover. Puck, that incredible new newsletter from one of the former employees at the Hollywood Reporter, talking last year about how Harry and Meghan's deal with Netflix was one of the worst deals in Hollywood history. So there's been more criticism than the publications listed in the Newsweek article, but it did give us a starting point and a jump off point. Let me know if we missed anything in the comments. And do you think that Harry and Meghan's Hollywood dreams are dead? Because some of you disagree when I say I don't think it's on a good path. I don't think it's on the path they want it to be on. Let me know in the comments below. If you watched this video to the end, comment with the word queen or the queen emoji so I can see you. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Kinsey Schofield.